Hello everyone, my name's Kim and I'm a quadruple amputee. I keep being asked how I lost my limbs. It's a very common question and a lot of people aren't aware. I lost my limbs because of a UTI that developed into sepsis. Most people's jaws, when I tell them that, drop to the floor and they're like, oh, I didn't know an infection like that could cause sepsis. Any infection at all can develop into sepsis. I was away in Spain and started to feel a little bit unwell. I had quite severe breathlessness and I thought it was a change in climate, so I was using my inhaler. I had slurred speech. I thought that was the medication that I used to take because that used to do that, but I only took it at night and I only had the slurred speech at night, so I should have known it wasn't that. I had severe shivering, but I just thought, I'm cold, it's cold. I'd got the central heating on, I'd got the log burner on, and I was just freezing cold. My hands and my feet were freezing cold. I couldn't get them warm. I now know these are all symptoms of sepsis. I'd never heard the word sepsis. So I'd started to get this pain in my left kidney side, and I thought, maybe I've got a UTI and it's gone up to my kidneys. That's the first I kind of then realised something was going on. Gut instinct, I think. I kind of thought it's a little bit more. Something's going on. Something's not quite right. And I think I need to go to the local hospital. That will be better than the local doctors. So off I popped to the local hospital. And I just said to her, dolor aquí, at the window. And I pointed here. Dolor aquí means pain here. And I pointed to this left side where I was getting the pain. Because I didn't know the word for kidney or urine, I didn't say the word infection. And it's very similar in English to Spanish. It's infección in Spanish. So, you know, even if I'd have said infection, I think they may have understood. Hopefully, they would have maybe guessed. And I should have said muy enferma, very ill. I should have said pienso infección. I didn't say either of those. I just said pain here, dolor aquí. I was x-rayed and I was sent away saying nothing's broken. I don't even remember that. I don't remember the x-ray. I remember going in and I remember saying dolor aquí, but that's all I remember. I don't remember anything else. The rest of it from then on is a real blur. I then the next day, at some point I'd got my phone out and I'd decided I would go to the doctors and I'd put in the Translate app. I think I have a urine infection and I'd screenshot it. Now, I don't even remember doing that. My daughter had found it on my phone and she told me. So I'd apparently shown the doctor this. My husband took me to the doctors. I couldn't even walk into the doctors properly. He had to hold me up because I was shuffling my feet. I do vaguely remember that. And apparently we went in the morning, we sat and waited and we couldn't be seen and I had to go back again in the afternoon. We went in the afternoon and I got seen, and the doctor, I'd shown him this Translate thing on my phone that I'd screenshot. And he then apparently gave me an injection in my bottom, I presume an antibiotic, but my husband doesn't know, I don't know. And then he gave us a prescription for antibiotics. My husband went to the chemist to get the antibiotics and they said, come back tomorrow, we don't have any in stock. We went home and this is how ill I must have been. I took myself to bed. Now I never, ever, ever go to bed if I'm ill, because I'm never ill. I'm never ill normally. So that's not something I would do. So I must have been really, really ill to take myself to bed. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke and I said to my husband, you've got to get up. You've got to take me to hospital right now. I'm going to die. I just knew I was going to die. I had this pending feeling of doom and that I was going to die. Another sepsis symptom. I got to the hospital and I don't remember any of it. I don't remember. I vaguely remember my husband bringing the car round and helping me out into the car, but that's all I remember. And I don't really remember anything else. We got to the hospital. He was made to go into a patient waiting room and 2 hours later, they took in my bag of clothes and jewellery and said, she won't be needing these, she could die. That gets to me every time because he doesn't speak Spanish. They didn't speak much English. He would have been petrified. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He couldn't ask because they couldn't speak English, so they couldn't tell him. He went home, he phoned my eldest daughter. They then hurried round. She told all the rest of the family. They hurried round getting a flight over. They couldn't get a flight from Luton that day, which is our nearest airport, because the flight had already gone. There was only one a day in the morning. So they had to get a flight that evening from Gatwick. And they weren't allowed to see me by the time they arrived. It was too late. So they came up the next morning to see me. And as they've described it, as a McDonald's drive-through window with a phone, and they just had to talk to me through this phone and look at me through this window. In the afternoon, they came back, and in the afternoon, they were allowed into the room. And one of them, they had to gown up, and one of them pulled back the sheet to hold my hand. And my hands had already gone purple. And that's when my mum said, switch off the life support machines. Don't keep her alive like that. Thanks, Mum. And so I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that I'm alive. You know, a lot of people have said I couldn't live like that. And I felt like that when it first happened. When I first came out of hospital, believe me, I had very dark days. And I thought, God, why did they let me live like this? But now I'm warning others about sepsis to help save lives. So 6 weeks, I was literally laid on my back with nothing done, apart from pumping me with drugs to, I guess, keep me alive. My youngest daughter finally got through to my travel insurance and blasted them, because they kept saying to her every time she'd phoned, oh, we can't foresee why she can't get back on a commercial airline. And this time she just lost it and said, are you completely stupid? I've told you she's in a coma, wired up to all kinds of machinery. How the hell do you expect her to walk on a commercial airline? They went away, they came back, and they phoned her back and said, we're sending an air ambulance for her. So a doctor came over from Germany, and he went into the room. He came back out and he spoke to my husband, and he said, I don't know how they work here, but if I don't get her out of here today, she's going to be dead. So he said, there's a risk with me taking her in the air and bringing her down with the altitude, but I will do my best to keep her safe. So I then was transported back to Milton Keynes Hospital, my local hospital, and my daughters were standing there waiting for me. And when they saw the trolley coming down the corridor, they were just about to go and get a coffee, and they were like, oh, that's Mum, that might be Mum, that might be Mum. And it was me. They took me in, and the girls had to wait outside for a little while. Then they called them in and took them into the doctor's office. Spain had told Milton Keynes Hospital that I had necrotic digits, which means black fingers and toes. My right arm, I don't know if you can see the scars all up here, but the right arm, they were talking about amputating right up here because it was so black. Luckily, they did what they call a debridement, and they just literally kind of peeled the skin off that was black, and it was healthy underneath. So I was very lucky. I managed to keep majority of the length of my arm. If I put them both together, you'll see it's just about an inch or so shorter, my right arm, than my left. So I was very lucky. So when they saw me, Milton Keynes Hospital, they were quite shocked, to say the least. And I was in a terrible state. I'd got grade 4 pressure sores, which are the worst you can get. You can die from those. On the back of my head and on my bottom. And so the doctors called my daughters into the office, and they said, the next 48 hours are critical. She's in a really delicate situation, and, you know, she could die. And Gemma said, no, she's fought for 6 weeks. She's not going to die. She's strong. She's going to survive. And here I am. I spent a further week after I'd woken up in the ICU. Then I went to Ward 2, and I spent a week there. After that, I was moved to Bedford for my amputations. Now, while I was in the ICU, the girls were stood at the end of the bed one day and they said to me, Mum, a doctor's going to come in a minute. You need to have all your limbs amputated and he's going to come in and tell you. I said, oh, okay. And I must have processed it quite quickly, even though I was still very confused and didn't really know what was going on. I remember that really clearly. And I remember the doctor saying to me, I'm sorry, Kim, but we're going to have to amputate all 4 limbs. And I just went, yeah, that's fine. How soon can you get them off? I'm not stupid. I knew they were gone. I couldn't even lift them off the bed. It was like somebody had super glued them to the bed or tied me down. I couldn't move a tiny little bit, you know, just like even a hair's breadth. I just couldn't move my arms or legs at all. So I was moved to Bedford, and I think it was the following day I had the amputations. So they were quite quick at doing it. And they took me down to do one leg. And through the operation, they phoned my daughter and they said, everything's going really, really well. Minimal blood loss. Are we okay to do the other leg as well while we're at it? And she said, yeah, go ahead. Mum would be glad to have all 4 done in one go rather than just one, but whatever you can do. Anyway, they then met her at the ICU. I think she was stood outside as they were coming out or going in or something. And they said to her, great news, we did manage to do all 4. And when they told me that they'd operated and done all 4, I was really happy. Now that sounds stupid, but I didn't want to have 4 individual lots of anaesthetic and 4 lots of operations. There's obviously a risk with every operation. But I looked down, and the reason I was happy was I'd seen that I'd got the full length pretty much of this arm. And I know having that length, I can do more things. Like I can blow dry my hair because I've got the length in my arms to do it. If that was really short, I wouldn't be able to reach up to do. Do you know what I mean? That I might get that side, maybe. I'd get this side. But there's no way I'd reach this side to do it. I like to be able to do my hair and my makeup and everything. So that was good. I spent 3 months in Bedford Hospital recovering from the surgeries and the debridlement, healing. The skin had to kind of grow over again. And then I was moved to Roehampton in London. My goodness, what an incredible hospital. The Queen Mary's Hospital in London. It's part of the Douglas Bader Foundation. And wow, the care I got and the help to learn how to basically walk on my bottom and move again and sit up, because I'd been laid in bed for so many months. My body didn't know how to sit up. That just sounds crazy. But I was just like flopping back like a piece of jelly. It was just like, oh, and I couldn't sit up. So I was booked in for 12 weeks and I would have stayed longer had I needed to. But I just smashed it in 7 weeks. I wanted to get home. I wanted to see my fur babies. I missed my dogs so much. The humans were coming to visit, but I couldn't see the dogs, you know, and I wanted to see them. Anyway, in 7 weeks, I got home. And from then on, for about 2 years, it took me to learn how to kind of sit up in bed on my own, to do a lot of things. I'd see other quad amputees doing things and I'd think, I'll try that, like blow drying my hair, doing my makeup, jumping basically. I kind of like hop from my wheelchair to my bed and things like that. I can just kind of put my arms down and swing my bum round. Learning how to do different things, learning to adapt. My biggest saviour is telling my story. Telling my story of what happened to me to help save other people's lives is my saviour. That was my therapy, if you like, because I can tell you now I was in a very, very, very dark place. I wanted to die when I first got out of hospital. But now I'm loving life. I have a great life. I've got a fabulous family. And I'm spreading awareness of sepsis. And if you've never heard of it, you need to learn the symptoms. Slurred speech and confusion, extreme shivering and muscle pain, passing little or no urine in a day, severe breathlessness, it feels like you're going to die, skin mottled or discoloured, cold skin to touch, my hands and feet were extremely cold and I couldn't get them warm. You may have a higher or lower blood pressure and temperature than normal. If you can check these, check them. If you've got an infection and you've got any one of those symptoms, get to A&E, get checked. Call 111, but if they delay in saying it's sepsis or saying about getting you checked for sepsis, just get yourself straight to the emergency room. Get to the hospital, get IV antibiotics and fluids because it's the only treatment for sepsis. Advocate for yourself. Tell the doctors because they sometimes miss it, they sometimes get it wrong, they're all human, we can all make mistakes. Tell them, no, I think I have sepsis, I want you to check me again, I'm not satisfied. Can I have a second opinion if needs be? Don't just walk away thinking that they're right because they're medical professionals. They miss it all the time with lots of people. Please keep safe and thank you for listening.